In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a Halloween chandelier that is spooktacular. What's up, Glue Dots? I'm Elaine, the Midnight Crafter. I had a request from Gladys a while back to make a Halloween chandelier, and when I was going to make it, I ended up making a different one, a Halloween lamp. So this time, Gladys, this is for you, your Halloween chandelier, and I hope you like it. This is something that I had in my head and sort of it grew as I crafted. So I had to rig some things and do some stuff, but I'm bringing it to you. I hope you guys like it. I don't know how many more Halloween crafts are going to be coming out for the season because we're rolling on into Thanksgiving things. So check it out while you can. Many of you ask me how to win one of those cute little bling owl keychains and how to enter. All you need to do is go to the description box down below and you'll find a link there, as well as all the information that you need for other good stuff and social media and platforms and what you'll need for the project, just the works. So don't forget to check that out. You guys ready to check out this project? Well, let's do it, but do that first. I'll be starting off with taking these little dowels from the Crafter's Square section at Dollar Tree, and I'll only be needing 4 of them. So I'm going to remove 4 and spray paint them black. Next, we're going to be taking the 3 hands and gluing them together to kind of form a bowl type of a shape. Something like this. And to do that, I'm going to be using my E6000 and my hot glue. So I'm actually using the E6000 Plus. I really like this because it doesn't stink like the other one. It has no odor and it's just so nice. So I'm going to first use my hot glue to put things together, and then I'm going to put the E6000 to sort of make sure that it gives it a longer hold. And do make sure that all your hands are the same size. I discovered that this one here is a little bigger than the others, so it's okay from if you're setting it up like I'm doing, but because of the length of the fingers won't really matter, but do try and get all the same length if you can. This is where I could use that third arm out of my forehead like I talk about sometimes, because there's a lot to hold on to here, and the hot glue helps, but I don't know, maybe another arm would be perfect. So this is what we're doing here. I can't let it go until it's dry. But the key is to make sure that that bottom part is completely flush, because this is what is going to be attached to the underside of the top of our chandelier. I don't know if that made any sense whatsoever, but you're going to see in a minute. And add in your extra glue wherever you can to give it a little more hold, because this is really going to need to be held together well when we add it to the other part. We really need to let this dry thoroughly. You can see I've added a lot of extra glue. This is the E6000 on the outside, and then on the inside I used my glue gun and I dripped the glue down in there to fill in those cracks. But we do want to really let this dry thoroughly, because this is a critical piece to keeping this all together. One of the things we can do while we're waiting for the hands to dry is work a little bit with our spider webbing here. You can leave the spider on or take it off, entirely up to you. I'm going to leave it on because I kind of like the little bit of pop of color that it's giving. But if you do decide, you can always take it off at the end if you don't like it. So I'm going to take the extra little ribbon off of here, and then flip this upside down, and we're going to use our 4 dowels that we painted earlier, and we're going to find 4 different spots, every other one, and glue these into place. Now this again is something that we really have to let dry. The hot glue, I find, does not work the best on plastic, so Let's see how this goes, guys. I'm gonna use a little tiny bit on half of this dowel of the E6000, and then also put on my hot glue and try and glue these into place. Then I'm gonna be putting another one on every other one till we have all 4 of them glued in. We're gonna set aside the piece that we glued our sticks onto and bring in our other spiderweb piece. And for this, what I'm gonna do is cut out this very center part. You'll probably wanna use wire cutters for this, because though you can do it with your scissors, it's gonna be really hard to get in close, and you're gonna need the tip of your scissors and you won't have good leverage. It's gonna be very hard on your hands. The wire cutter makes it really easy to cut through that plastic, and then you'll also be cutting through the garland so that you can remove this entire piece here, leaving you just this outer part. Now I'm gonna carefully work with my hands, which are still drying, and I'm gonna use this pack of lights, which this is what they look like at the Dollar Tree. These are the ones with the little bats, and I'm gonna leave them exactly how they are tied, because this way it'll be a little more powerful light as opposed to being kind of spread out, and it's gonna give that purple glow to it. So it's gonna be a little tricky, but you're gonna need to feed these through a couple little bats at a time, and being really careful to not pressure anything through there, because you don't want to pull apart the hands again. Do make sure to check that your lights are working before you get them all fed in there, because it is a little bit of a challenge to get them in there, and you don't want to find out later that they're not working. Then we're going to take the piece that we have the sticks glued onto, and we're going to be flipping this upside down onto there, because we're going to be attaching that. The battery pack is going to have to go in a place where you will be able to easily access it later to replace the batteries if you need to. So I'm going to be gluing mine out here, and do make sure, of course, that you leave the screw side up so you can open it. Also make sure that however you do glue it in, that you'll be able to easily access the little switch on there. Now, because this is the most important part of our chandelier, and we do want to make sure it stays in place, not only are we going to use our E6000 and hot glue, but what I'm going to be doing here as well is using some zip ties. Now, the pack at Dollar Tree has these little tiny thin ones. They have black, red, and white. But I used all my black ones on my previous project, which I'll leave a little iCard up above if you care to watch that project. It's another, if you haven't seen it already, a spooky Halloween lamp. So it is a good one to go along with this one. But what we're gonna do in order to have a place for these zip ties, there's already a hole in the bottom of these hands. And I'm going to use the tip of my hot glue gun to create another hole in addition, so that I have somewhere to pass the zip tie through to hold it on to the project. If you have a soldering iron or something like that, or a hot knife, you can use that as well. In fact, it probably will be even better and quicker. Or you can also use an X-Acto knife, but I would suggest if you do that, you do it before you get everything glued together, just because you don't want to be pressing that hard down on this while you're still waiting for that glue to dry. So just a thought. Here's where it may get a little bit tricky, is passing these zip ties through that, because you can't get to the inside of the hand. So I'm just using these really pointy tweezers and going through the smaller hole first, and then reaching in there and grabbing the zip tie and pulling it through the hole. Now I'm going to be adding my E6000 generous glob, and then my hot glue, also generous. Flip this over and find a spot. You may need to sort of swirl it around a bit, because obviously we don't have a flat surface under there that we're gluing it to. We're going to flip this over so that we can attach the zip ties. Find the ends of your zip ties. This is where it may be a little tricky. There's one. These little tweezers sure come in handy, I'll tell you. Another thing is to make sure your zip ties are facing the right way when you put them in, because they will only attach one way, so make sure it's the right way. So go through and get all your zip ties tied tightly and securely, and you may want to leave them a little loose until you know that this is evenly placed in there, and then tighten them up, and then we'll move on. Now I did zip tie my battery pack on there, but do know that you're going to have to cut that zip tie when you need to replace the batteries. Now we're going to turn this upside down again, and we're going to be adding the other piece here to it. And we're going to, in the same way that we glued the other points on there, we're going to put some glue on our sticks and attach this top piece. Now, if you have a place where you can now flip this upside down and hang it up to work, that would be the ideal and perfect situation. Okay, so I MacGyvered something to be able to hang this to work and show you guys, because otherwise I was gonna have to do this upside down. So you can't see my head, I know I'm cut off, but at least you'll be able to see what I'm doing. So we're gonna take next the little skeleton garland from Dollar Tree, and we're gonna be using these little guys without their string. So cut that off, and we just need the skeleton itself. In fact, if you want to cut the little loop off of his head too, you can do that as well. We're going to take our little skeleton guys and glue one onto each of the 4 sticks that we have. We have 4 skeletons, 4 sticks, so we're going to glue one on each. And I'm going to again use a combination of the hot glue and the E6000, and it looks only like that his back of the skull and his butt are what will be touching, so that's the only contact points that you will have. So I'm going to put the E6000 on his head and the hot glue on his butt, though the E6000 is the one that makes the fart sound. Sorry. Now, kind of a fun idea that I just thought of that came to me. If you want to pose your skeletons around the poles, that could be kind of funny and give it just its own little character in and of itself. So, I mean, I always say he, but we don't know that it's a he. It could be a she, and her former life could have been a stripper or something. So, I don't know. So it looks like I do need to add a little bit of hot glue as well onto the top of the skull, because otherwise it kind of slides until it dries. So what I'm going to do just temporarily, since I did not put hot glue and I already have a lot of E6000 on there, is I'll probably just tie it on there, maybe with some string or something temporarily until it dries. Yeah. I'll glue the other 3 on, and I'll be back to show you the next step. And by the way, are you getting value from this project, from my channel? If you are, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more craziness and fun. Now that I have all my skeletons glued on there, I'm going to start playing with some of the other little embellishments. And I have these little mini skulls that come in a pack like this. And these I'm going to be gluing on the little points in between where we had the skeletons on the sticks. For this, I'm going to also use a combination of the 2 glues. And what I find to be the easiest for that is to put your dot of E6000 in the middle, and then the hot glue dots, one on each side. This way, the 2 hot glue dots hold it until the center E6000 glue dot dries. Blah, blah, blah. We got some hot glue dots in this group. I think somebody put something in my soup that I had for lunch. Now we're going to be adding some hanging skulls to this bottom part, and kind of at different lengths. And the way I did that is I just took some black thread, just any random length. You don't have to measure it out because we want these to all be a little different. And then I'm going to use just the longest needle that I could find, and kind of a thicker one. Thread your needle and double up your thread. Don't worry about tying a knot. And we're going to go in through the bottom of the skull. We're going to go right in about here. And it's really hard to push through this plastic, so I'm just using a small pliers and make sure you hold it down close to the tip there of the needle so that you don't end up injuring yourself. So we're going to poke it right through there, and then make sure that it's straight up and down when you look at it, and then that will ensure that you're pretty much coming out through just about center on the top. Pull that through, but what we're going to do, instead of tying a knot or doing any of that, we're going to get that close to the end of the thread there, about like a ½ inch sticking out still. Add a little dot of glue there and pull the thread a little bit more till it's almost all the way in, but you can cut off any excess and let that cool off for a moment. Then we're just going to take the needle and use that to go around and just tie this wherever you would like. I'm just leaving the needle on because it's already there and it just makes it easier to tie. In order to hold that in place, I'm going to just throw another little dot of hot glue right on top of where I tied that. Let it cool for a second and then just cut off the excess. And continue on and put as many or as few of those as you would like. Now we're going to start doing the same thing with these little hands. So I put the skulls on the indent part of each section, and now I'm going to put the hands on each point out section. And again, at varying lengths, I just think it looks kind of fun that way, but it's up to you. Now that those hands are all in place, we're going to use one more package of hands. So in the same spot where the point comes outward, I'm going to glue in there, one on each side, a little hand, just like this. So the point that has the skeleton on it, we're going to be putting the hands from the top down in the same way, kind of, probably almost kind of looking like wings, but I don't know, whatever. But that's where we're going to put them. So you can see I've got this hanging on here with some jute twine. My original plan was to use the plastic chain from Dollar Tree. Unfortunately, I don't have any because I used that on my last project as well. But use your imagination and hang it with what you'd like, but that chain is the finishing touch and looks amazing. I may borrow some off my other project just to show you. Oh my gosh, are you guys ready to see this all lit up? Let's go check it out.